Hi, my name is Wendy, and this is my audience. Alright. I remember this like it was yesterday. This happened about 3 years ago. My director from my drill team asked me to babysit her kids, and I was eating dinner with my friends. It was a very last minute thing, but I rushed all the way home, and then from my house, I rushed to her house. And without thinking, I was speeding, and something very bad happened towards the end. Today I will talk about speeding and drinking and driving. Because we all drive, this affects you. And we all know someone who speeds. Drinking and driving is becoming such a habit without thinking of the consequences. Speeding and drunk driving is a problem that needs to be fixed. First, we'll look at the prices not being strict enough. Then we'll look at the problems this causes, and finally come to the solutions so this will no longer be a problem. Speeding and drunk driving prices are not strict enough. The average cost of a speeding ticket, including court fees, is $150, according to the Texas traffic violation. A DWI is up to $500 and possibly jail time for the second offense. If a resident in the U.S., the second offense of a DWI is an automatic dismissal from the country, from U.S. and back to your country. Your interest increases and there's property damage and all of that. The number one reason for tickets is speeding, according to the Texas traffic violation. For a first offense of DWI, you face license suspensions not to exceed 2 years, up to a $500 fine, and an alcohol education program for at least 12 hours long. An additional 180 days of license suspension if you do not complete that course. 90 days of license suspension if your judge gives you community service. It is worth arriving at your destination just a few minutes sooner, San Francisco Chronicle said. Not thinking when drinking or thinking you can drive because you haven't had enough is what everyone says. You might be running late, that's the reason you're speeding, or simply because it's becoming a habit. Now that I've talked about the prices of speeding, we can now move on to the problems this can cause. This can cause accidents, injuries, and even death. In August of 2009, one of our really good family friends, that I would call him my cousin because we grew up together, he was on his way home and the driver had been drinking. The driver ran into a house, completely into the living room, and the passenger, which was my family friend, was under the passenger seat, and shortly after the accident, he passed away. The driver, to this day, he has back problems, he was in a wheelchair, he has trouble walking, and he doesn't forget the day he killed one of his best friends, just for drinking and driving. I'm sure we've all heard of Jackie's drunk driving story. If you've taken defensive driving, if you want to get your driver's license, if you watch TV, there's commercials about this. She was on her way to her house, but didn't make it all the way because she and her other 3 friends were hit by a drunk driver. All of her friends passed away, and she got 3-degree burns that burned 60% of her body. Her ears, eyelids, left eye is blind, hair, hands, and skin. She has had over 100 surgeries, with the cost being over $5 million. She's lost track of how much money she's spent. The doctors did not expect her to survive, but she is making a change in the world and persuading people not to drink and drive. So this is how Jackie looked before, and this is how she looks now. And this is her campaign to not drink and drive. Now that we have talked about some of the problems this can cause, we can now move on to the solutions, so this problem will no longer be a problem. There's plenty of solutions I've thought of. The laws are not strict enough. Maybe we can make the minimum $500 for, depending how much you're speeding, and jail time for driving under the influence. I of a new law that this could happen is whenever you leave the bar or the club, you can take a breathalyzer test, and if you have 0.08 more of alcohol in your system, you can't drive your car, and the club is recommended and obligated to call a cab so you won't drive. You can take someone's life away while speeding, just as you can take someone's life while driving under the influence. Also, remember how we used to have those red light, when you pass the red light and you get an automatic ticket? That could be one, but with automatic speeding. That can be another solution. And a personal solution could be planning wisely. If you're running late, you need to leave earlier. You need to take that habit. And if you're a really good friend, you need to call a cab for your friend. And don't let any friend drive under the influence. Today we looked at the problems of speeding and driving while the influence, some of its causes, and some solutions we should exercise so that this will no longer be a problem. Speeding and drinking and driving is a problem that needs to be fixed. At the end of my story, I mentioned in the very beginning, I did not arrive to be a babysitter that day because I was hit by a car, and it was all because I was speeding. I had to go to the ER, and I ended up in crutches, and I learned my lesson from then.